because you know that people are already struggling. So yes, corporations have discretion over how much they want prices to be, especially corporations that are dominating the market. And don't have to deal with any competition. And that's what, unfortunately, we see across a lot of different market areas in the economy. Why is Visa, for example, able to charge high fees that then end up hitting small business owners when they want to process any of the transactions we do? Why? Because they can, because they're not facing any competition. So, that's an ongoing issue that we're going to have to address as a country. We've seen some progress in this administration to try to tackle some of that price gouging. We've seen also, from Vice President Harris in her economic plan that one of her goals is to take on price gouging specifically in the grocery market. And that is going to take some time to really rein in. But rest assured, there are laws existing on the books that ban that type of behavior. And we need to make sure that we have enforcers in place that are going to use those laws to their maximum impact, and legislators in Congress, like you were just talking, your prior, guest who looks like maybe he's going to get there, to be one of those that's going to be pushing for legislation that will ban these types of practices from corporations that drive up prices ultimately that we end up paying.
Questions from my panel. Let's go first to Derek Jackson, who's a Georgia State representative. Derek, what's your question for Morgan?
And if she could really share the difference between inflation and corporate greed, because a lot of what Kamala Harris policies are, as you've already articulated, that's one part. And then the second part, why there's no breakthrough for her. I don't drive everything around polls, but it still says that Trump is leading when it comes to the economy, when the world economists are backing her plan, the GDP growth of 2.8%, the job creation that you already mentioned. Why there's no breakthrough? Why it's not resonating when it comes to that she's better of the two to handle the economy?
Yeah, well, your first question, the difference between inflation, corporate greed, I think, the main point that we're getting at is prices have increased. And some of the price increases can be attributed to different factors. So, for example, like when we had the disruption with supply chains during the pandemic, that just made it harder for companies to get goods. And then also we saw that that forced them to raise prices because they were paying more for their supplies to be able to provide whatever their goods and services were. So that's something that could drive up prices. But then you have other factors that drive up prices. If there's also similarly a labor shortage and employers have to increase the prices that they're charging us because they're also paying their workers more, then that's something that can contribute to inflation. That's why I was saying, sometimes a lot of the federal monetary policymakers will be looking at just how quickly wages are increasing to get a sense of how that might be impacting the inflation rate.